Hello and welcome to Big Boy Bigger Dreams. I am the big boy with the bigger dreams, Eden Longson. Thank you for tuning in once again to episode 16. I do like to give them names, and so I'm going to call this episode Living and Living. I usually do like to make it a couple of things and to make them sort of conflict with each other somewhat, but I actually decided that living and living are two different things. There's living and then there's living, and I don't want to get too much what the difference is just yet. I'm going to sort of work through some other stuff, and I feel like a lot of the time as though I'm living but I'm not living. Now this has been highlighted. I've been very ill the past week. I've had a head cold and a really terrible headache for a lot of the time. I had a lot of trouble sleeping, some stomach difficulties, and coughing my guts up. I'm still a bit blocked, as you can tell, although my voice is usually fairly nasally anyway. For those of you who don't know, if you just tune into this is a plog. So this is a free form blog in the form of a podcast, but then now also in form of a video. So who knows what this is anymore? It's a podcast vlog. Yeah. So I'm just going to ramble about my life for a bit. And I've got some notes. I often ignore them, but I'm going to keep talking. So I felt very ill, and you can still hear me how ill I am. But the illness started. I went to go see the incredible Muse on Sunday evening, and it was so good. I'm so happy I got to see them. I went to go see them with my buddies Giles and Kieran, and we had an amazing time. We saw them at the National Bowl in Milton Keynes, which I've never been to before. I think Giles said it's been closed for several years, but it was huge. It was absolutely massive. Just this incredibly massive open air space. Thousands and thousands of people there. It was just genuinely awesome. And I love Muse. Muse are one of my favourite all-time bands. And I think... so basically, I had tickets to go see them in 2019, but with Giles, who's one of my oldest and best friends. And we love Muse. We sat and listened to because the Second Law album came out just as we were becoming really good friends, and we sat and listened to it a lot together, and we bonded a lot over Drones as well, which came out after that, as well as Simulation Theory we both love, and it was the tour for Simulation Theory, but Giles got a contract to go abroad and play music, and I didn't want to go without him. I probably could have found someone else, but to be honest, I wanted to go with Giles. And so I finally got to go with him, and Kieran came along as well, and I think he had an awesome time as well, which is brilliant. Yeah, just incredible. What an amazing live show. They are amazing. But I, of course, screamed along to every single song. They've got quite a few anthemic tunes, I'd say. Quite a lot of songs that I was sort of screaming along to, having a great time. Really just leathering my voice in a way that just cannot be healthy, really. But yeah, so I did that, and so the next day I went to work, and my voice was just gone. I could barely talk. And then I went and had dinner with a friend, and then as I was walking home, I just felt so ill, and I just couldn't sleep the whole night, and then I just got worse and worse and worse. I had to take the day off on Tuesday. I felt really, 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 really ill. I've not felt that ill in a while. The kind of ill where it's in your bones. It's you just don't want to do anything. So that wasn't great. But before that, so on Sunday I saw that gig, which is amazing. And on Saturday, I travelled up to Liverpool, which is where I went to university. I have a lot of affiliation with Liverpool. I love Liverpool a lot, and I kind of wish I'd stayed there, to be honest. I remember at the end of 2016, during mid-2016, when I finished my degree, I thought to myself, well, I can't earn enough to pay rent. Not knowing that, well, I could get a terrible job somewhere and just pay rent. You could do that. but I moved home, and there's a lot of me there's a big part of me that kind of wished I'd stayed in Liverpool. Liverpool was a great place, a really great vibe. I loved it there. And then I went and played a wedding, and it was a wedding of a couple of musicians who I've worked with before many times. And the band, we were sort of a mini big band, so playing loads of jazz charts. My mate Danny Miller put it all together, and it was just really, really fun just to sit and play some jazz tunes with some old pals, for some old pals. I mean, it was way too hot. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was sweltering. I couldn't cope with how hot it was. I mean, the next day, as I was driving back down to London, it was like 33 degrees in my car. I just can't. That's not okay. 33 degrees is just not okay. Even if I'm on like a hot holiday, that's hot. Take 10, take 15 off that, and maybe we'll be all right. 33, that's just insane. So bad. But I think it's interesting because, I went up and played that gig on that day. So I'd been in the studio, I'd been here the night before. Liverpool via Stoke on Saturday, London via Stoke on a Sunday, and then to Milton Keynes to see Muse. So I was really living it up on the weekend. And then this week, because I've been doing so little because I've been so ill, it feels like I've just been alive but not living, you know? I feel like being ill really does zap me. Certainly this time it has. It really has. It's been really, really shit. But I think, I had a really good time playing that gig, and I think something's got to change in my life. I'm working this day job, and I recently went to a different day job at the same place so that I'd have fewer hours, but then they asked me if I could pick up some hours because someone was leaving, and so now I'm back up to full time, and it's just so much. It's like a lot, so something really does need to change, because I said yes to that more work to be helpful, and it's just making me feel like I'm not even alive anymore. I sometimes look, I'll come across a TikTok and it'll be some dude playing with cows in a field or something, and I think to myself, I could totally go live on a farm. I mean, I was brought up from the age of 10. So my parents live on like a small holding, which is, I guess, a fancy way of saying a small farm. It doesn't. Charles used to make this joke where he used to say, because he'd say like, "Oh, you're a farmer," and I'd say, "Well, we don't earn any money off the farm. It's not like we're a commercial farm." And he said, "Oh, so you're a bad farm." It's like, screw you, man. But the thing about that farm is, so basically, it's just enough land to keep so there's a couple of horses there, because my sister is and was super into and still is, sorry, I should say, really into horses. So is my mum, and there's chickens. We had pigs for a bit. I love that lifestyle, and I remember being at school and coming home most days and having to just go straight out and muck stables out because the horses need to come in, or going and getting eggs, or collecting eggs, or going up to the pigs and feeding them, or cleaning them out. And it's just I was so used to that. That's totally normal for me. Honestly, I feel very, very comfortable in a pair of wellies, just moving shit around with a shovel. Genuinely, it doesn't really faze me. It's definitely a very normal part of my life. In fact, so the job that I was in just before the one I'm in now, I made a joke in the office about something. So I think it's because I was opening the window because it was just getting so hot, and there's these big, where I work, there's these big sort of ropes that lead up to the top of the window that you have to pull down on to get the window to open upwards, because it's a really super old building. And I said, so here's a piece of advice, when you're lead reining a horse, never wrap the rope around your hand. I'm doing it for the video people out there. Never wrap it like that. Never wrap it all the way around your hand, because if the horse bolts, that's a broken arm. That's definitely a broken wrist. It might pull your shoulder out, and it might drag you, and you might die. So don't do that. Always keep it loose. And he was like, okay. When was the last time you've rode a horse? And I was like, well, probably not since I was 15. You'd need a pretty big horse. Right? And then I said something else about like horse ropes and stuff, and he was like, why are you joking? Why do you know stuff about horses? Like, oh, I grew up around horses, so like, you know, my parents and sister have horses and stuff, so I've always been around horses. Like there's horses at home right now. Like there's a horse and 2 rescue ponies like at my parents' house right now. And he just started laughing. He thought it was so funny. He was like, what? That's the most random... What? Like he couldn't... It was like he couldn't quite believe it. He was a bit like, that's the most random thing I've ever heard. Yeah, it really sort of like threw him for a loop. He really laughed at it. He really didn't understand. Like, what? So wait, you have horses? Yeah. Why? I don't know. Just family have they just have horses, I guess. And he's just like, so you just grew up around horses? Like, yeah. Like, I don't have anything else to say to it. Like, I did. I grew up around horses. Like, I'm very comfortable around horses. I'm very comfortable around wildlife in general. And, it's just kind of threw him for a loop. So, yeah, I could totally see myself going and just living on a farm or a small holding somewhere, or, like, working on a farm, or doing, like, a rescue centre. I've always wanted to have a rescue, like a donkey sanctuary or something. I think the problem is that FOMO would start to hit pretty hard. Maybe I'll feel this less when I'm older, but it's one of the main things that scare me about moving away from London. Like I started living in London in August 2022, and I just feel like, what happens if I leave London in August 2023? Which I'm not planning on doing, but imagine if I did, and then that's when everything cool started happening in London. You know, I think London is like seen as the end destination for a lot of creatives, a lot of musicians, and I think so I think it's almost like if I move, then I won't be living that way. I might be living, but I might not be living. But maybe that's the right kind of living than this kind of living. I don't know. That's the thing. It's very hard to know. But I just know that I would really... FOMO... I'm saying FOMO a lot, and I hope everyone knows what FOMO is. The fear of missing out. I feel like I would look back at people at London and sort of be really jealous of the fact that they're out doing cool stuff and I'm sat, clearing horse poo. But then I'm jealous of people who are currently in the Philippines, like, travelling, or people in South America who are travelling, or like, I'm jealous of people who work on like the Antarctic science stations, or the polar expedition. I'm jealous of all those people. So adding London people to the list is only adding like, it's just shifting, who I'm jealous of. I'm jealous of everyone, I guess. But talking about that old boss though, they've asked me to come and help out with one of their events, which has made me really happy, because the thing I loved about my old job working with the juniors, with the kids, was the fact that I loved the kids and I thought they were ace. I used to love hanging around them and being there on Saturdays and being a chaperone and being part of the team and just sort of being friendly. And I definitely feel like I'm definitely more of an outward facing person, as in I like interacting with the students and their parents and the teachers. Like, I love that stuff. I hate doing spreadsheets. I hate being sat on my laptop doing bullshit that I don't care about. Love being like in the fray, in the thick of it. So for this, I will be doing their final concert, and I'll be like, organising all the kids backstage. I remember most of their names. Like, I'm very excited to do it. I think it'll be really, really fun and just like a really positive experience for me. I doubt if any of the people who work at Juniors, any of the kids at Juniors listen to this, because they're all 19 and under. And does anyone under the age of 19 listen to podcasts? I hope so, but that might have just been a big reveal for them. Maybe I'll Maybe I'll I'll send an email out saying I'm back, or maybe I'll just turn up on the day and be like, "What up? I'm back," and I'm so ready for them to be like, "Okay, you left?" Like, I think that'd be really funny. I think it'd be really funny if they just nonchalantly were like, "All right, man, like, aren't you always here? You do all the concerts." I'm like, but I left. And I just think that'd be really funny, and I wouldn't put it past them. People are playing my music in other news. So the Talent Quartet are a string quartet based in Manchester, based at the RNCM, and they asked me to write a piece for them, and I did. I wrote a piece called "The Polar Bears of Curlyton Island." Back in February, maybe. I remember it was cold, but was it as far back as February? It might have been. I went to the Natural History Museum where my friend works, one of my housemates works, because they got us free tickets to the Wildlife Photographer of the Year awards that were sort of being presented there. So it wasn't like an award ceremony, but it was like a gallery of all the pictures that were presented into the awards, and some incredible photos, some insanely good photos. But some of the photos that really, really stood with me were these photos of these polar bears in these abandoned Soviet buildings, and taken with these drone shots because they got very close to the polar bears, and I don't think you want to get that close with a normal camera. And it was just really, really striking. It was just these old buildings, sort of huts, Soviet era, I guess, probably, maybe a little bit older. And there's just these polar bears just wandering around them. I think it's just incredible. Really, really beautiful photos, really stark kind of photos. And just one of those things, when I think of like nature reclaiming places that humans have been, you think about like flowers erupting in New York City, or the Amazon retaking Brasilia or something. You very rarely think of polar bears in huts, and it just really stuck with me. So I wrote a piece about that and called "The Polar Bears of Curlyton Island," and it sounded like it went really well. They played it in a competition which they didn't win, to be fair, but I think they had some stiff competition. And I even had a message off another musician who was there, and he said he really enjoyed listening to it, which was super sweet of him to say. So yeah, that was really cool. Really happy that that's happening. I'm really happy people are playing my music, and I need to get more people to do it, and I need to write more music. And I have this joke. I'm making a lot more sort of YouTube and TikTok content at the minute, and one of the sort of a way I introduce a lot of it is by saying, "Hello, my name's Eden Longson, and I should be writing some music, but instead I thought I'd come on the internet and talk about some stuff that I quite like." Which I think is funny because it's true. I am procrastinating from writing music. Like, there's definitely a lot of music I could be writing right now. I'm working on the solo project right now as well, which is sort of separate to my composing, because with composing for me, that's like writing music for people. Whereas I think when it's like a solo project, that's like writing music for yourself to perform. I'm not going to be a rapper. Before anyone asks, I can't rap. My name is Eden, and I'm here to say that I can't rap in a rapping way. I really can't do it. I don't have the voice for it. I think my voice doesn't sound like sincere enough. My voice is like northern, but also kind of like Midland, like kind of well spoken, but then also kind of not, kind of like very nasally. I feel like when I think about my favorite rappers, like Lil Sims, her voice just comes out of the microphone, goes into the microphone, just perfect. And it just, the way her voice sounds and the way she speaks just flows lyrically, and it just like, that works. That's it. That's just talk and you're rapping, like, so good. Whereas my raps would sound a bit like a lecture or a TED talk or something. And just a bit naff. But yeah, so I'm working on some solo stuff, so I need to get to doing that. Yeah. I recently stumbled. I was on TikTok recently, and I recently stumbled across, and they keep sending me more videos now. You know, the algorithm keeps showing you more videos of sad quote talk. I'm gonna call it. So it's just because there's the new function on TikTok where you can do a slideshow of images with the sound playing, and the sound is like a really sad cinematic sound, and it's just quotes that are sad, just like really sad quotes or really beautiful quotes. Like one of them was something like, I'm afraid I'm going to love you forever, but I'm never going to see you again. Or one of them which really, really stuck with me was, my mother said, you hold on to a lot of weight. You carry all that weight with you. You hold it all in. And I said, where do I put it down? And I love that quote so much. It really, I even said this to my therapist. Therapy's going well, by the way. And I said that line to her because I felt like I really resonated with it. Because my mum and dad will say stuff like, you know, you need to find a way to let go, or find a way to, you know, my dad will say things like you need to, not like toughen up or like manly toxic stuff, just sort of like you need to be able to put your walls up, and you need to let this kind of thing go. And yeah, like I want to say, like, where do I put it? Like, I know I'm holding on to it. Where do I put it? Is there somewhere I can put it down? Because I'd happily do that. Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, there's living and then there's living, and I'd happily be living. I wish I knew how. Or even if it's in my nature to know how, or in my nature to do. But being on sad quote talk is a bit of a spiral, let's be honest, because you get more and more, and you're like, oh my god, these beautiful, sad, horrible quotes. And in fact, it led me. So there is a poem this week, and this poem, I haven't given a name, but if I was to, I guess I'd call it "I Search for Home," because that's the first line. So I'm going to read you a poem that I wrote on the DLR over here. So there's this "I Search for Home." I search for home, as one searches frantically for the last few pieces of a puzzle that must have escaped the box in transit. I look for space, any space that will accommodate me. If I fits, I sits, but with the knowledge that I'm going to leave again. I peruse the aisles of life for a life of my own, forgetting that as I scan the shelves, I breathe. I move, my cells divide, the clock on this mortal coil ticks, and yet I keep flitting away in search of living. I'm worried I'll regret, and I regret all that I've worried. Why has life felt like I'm waiting to live? Yeah, so there's that. That's that poem. It kind of makes me think of that quote from, what's the film called? Soul, the Disney Pixar movie, where, you know, all the way through the movie, because he dies, and then he goes to the pre-life and all this kind of blah, 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 blah. And eventually he gets to play this gig. He comes back to life and he gets to play this gig with this idol. And at the end of the gig, he says, well, okay, what happens now? And the person he plays with is like, spoilers for Soul, by the way. And the person he's playing with says, well, we do it again tomorrow. And he says, I thought I'd feel something, or I thought that was it, or something. And she says this brilliant quote where she says, a fish swims up to another fish and says, where's the ocean? And the other fish says, you're in the ocean now. And the first fish says, this ain't ocean, this is just plain old water. I want the ocean. And it's like living and living again. Like, sometimes you don't know that you're living when you're living, and sometimes you don't know all the good stuff that's happening while it's happening. And yeah, I think it's like that paradox, that sort of paradox that you don't want to be you don't wish to be in that paradox. You're not searching to be part of that paradox, of like being alive but not living, or being happy but not actually feeling happy. doing the things you want but feeling unfulfilled, that kind of stuff. Like, those paradoxes just exist, and I don't know if there's like a cure for them or anything, but it's just, I think it's good to sort of recognize that is something that exists in my life. But like, I get, you know what, I get really jealous listening to creatives chatting. I was listening to Frankie Boyle's episode, Frankie Boyle being interviewed by Louis Theroux on Louis Theroux's Grounded podcast, which came out sort of at the height of the pandemic. And something about that, my hand looks so gross on the video. People who are just listening, you don't even know, but my hand looks fine. But then as soon as I grip the microphone, it's okay. I look like Duke Harkonnen from the original Dune movie, just a gelatinous mass. Why am I fat shaming myself right now? What a weird thing to do. Anyway, I was listening to Frankie Boyle chat to Louis Theroux, and it was really interesting because he was talking about, being a club comic and then going on panel shows and writing for shows and writing for stuff, and it was just really interesting because it seems like from fairly early on he was just like earning a living doing that stuff, and just hearing them chat about their lives and just how they do stuff, and I think about all the struggles they're going through, because they talk about that, and they talk about issues they've had, and they talk about, I don't know, I just find there's this feeling of like, yeah, but if I would so happily, it would solve, I think, maybe so many of my woes if I could just be surviving purely doing the creative stuff, making podcasts, making YouTube videos, composing, drumming, arranging, orchestrating, conducting. If I was doing all those things that I love to do, and I'm good at, like, that's the other thing, like, it's not just things that I want to do because of a flight of fancy, it's things that I've trained hard to be good at. If I could do those things and support myself, I'd be so happy. I'd be like, oh great, I get to do that stuff. Like, I don't have to sit at this desk and do these bloody spreadsheets about stuff I don't care about, it would be so good. But it's I'm just in that position right now where no one is paying me to do the thing. So no one's paying me to be creative in any way. No one's paying me to compose. And I think, it's one of those things where in order to be like an adult human being, you have to just be in a job that you hate sometimes. And I know that's the truth. It's just, I'm worried that I'm going to run out of time. And I will have spent all this time being alive but not living but not living, but then what happens when I get to that life and I still feel like I'm living or not living? I don't know. That's, I'll have that conversation when it comes to it. I'll happily confront that particular demon when or if it ever happens. That would be quite a nice demon to confront, potentially. Just, oh yeah, I mean, I just feel zapped. Like, I work full time, and when you get home in the evening, it's the weather as well, you just feel like you don't want to do anything. You get home and you're like, ugh. So you just, play video games and fall asleep, even though you think to yourself, I could be writing, or I could be filming, or I could be doing something, but instead I'm just so knackered, I just want to sleep. And that's just such a shame. But maybe something will give. I always resonate with that bit from the Bell Jar. I don't know if everyone's listened to Red, Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. It's a weird book, actually, the whole novel. It's sort of about this girl. It's sort of semi-autobiographical. It's about this girl who moves to New York City to write, and she writes for a magazine, but she also lives in this sort of weird compound with all the other girls, and they're not allowed boys over or whatever, and she goes to a party. I think she gets too drunk at some point, and yada yada. She goes home, and she tries to kill herself because she feels this bell jar going in around her, suffocating her, and the book kind of ends kind of openly. It was just a note. It was published posthumously, because she killed herself in real life before the book was published. Although there's a whole thing about her husband, because his next wife killed herself as well in a similar fashion. There's like a potential thing, I don't know. But in that bit in the bell jar, there's a bit where she talks about a fig tree and how she always feels like she's stood at the bottom of a great big fig tree, and on one branch there hangs a piece of fruit, which is, being a successful writer. On another branch there's being a mum and a housewife, and on another one it's being a professor, on another one it's this, another one it's that. There's just loads of figs hanging off this tree, and she cannot decide which fig she would like to pick. And she says, as she stands there sort of like, without making a decision, they all wither and fall off the tree and die, and she starves. It's kind of bleak. And, she's her. I don't want to take her example, because she did end her life, and that did end quite badly. I'm not going there, but I just think there's an aspect of that story that really, really does resonate with me. And sometimes you do have to just choose something. Like there's that saying from Parks and Rec, like, don't half-arse two things, whole-arse one thing. And you know what? If I had the chance to whole-arse one thing, I would. If someone said, here's X amount of money for you to compose for however long, which covers all your bills and rent and food, and you just have to compose all day. Bingo. That sounds like a good life. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to more London people, I think. I'm going to reach out to more people and make more of a community. I think there's a lot of people that I semi-know down here, and I think I'm going to try and make more of a conceited effort to go and hang out with people. Like, I think... God, I'm still kind of ill. Sorry if you've been listening to me sniff and, cough into the microphone. This is just me being open and earnest and, raw. God, I don't edit this podcast at all. Whatever I've said is been said and will be online. But yeah, I'm going to reach out to more people, make some more actual friends, find more of a community. I think, I just want to go and, get beers with people or, sit in the park with people. I would love to just go and sit in the park with some terrible sandwiches I made at home and, a bev, and just, sit and chat about shit with people and just laugh. It just sounds like such a nice idea and a nice time. I think the main thing is that the main takeaway from this, I'm going to wrap this up soon, but I think the main takeaway, is that, I want to live. There's living and then there's living, and I want to be living. That's a good sign. Right? I want to live, I want to be living, and that feels like quite a big thing to me. It may not feel massive for lots of other people, but it's true. I don't want to just be living. I want to be living, and I want to be alive while I do it. And that's cool. I'm going to give you some music recommendations because that's what I do at the end of this thing. So I've done a couple of videos recently. One that I released about Lily Boulanger, who is a French composer. She's brilliant. She was the first female winner of the Prix de Rome. She wrote loads of amazing music. She was everyone knew she was amazing, including her sister. But she died at the age of 24 in 1918, just at the end of World War One. And she left a legacy of some really banging music, including a piece that I love, which is D'un Martin Printemps. My friend Tongi can correct me. D'un Martin Printemps. So that's Dun, D'(UN), Dun, Martin, Matin, or Matin, and then Printemps, or Printemps, Printemps. So D'un Martin Printemps. I think it means of a morning in the spring, or of a spring morning, that kind of thing, or a morning in springtime. that kind of thing. But listen to the orchestral version. The original version is nice, but the orchestral version is just absolute fire. Then I recently watched a Tiny Desk. I love Tiny Desk, NPR's Tiny Desk concerts, and the harpist and composer Brandy Younger was on, and oh my god, incredible talent. I mean, she's so good. The music was incredible. The singer she had with her was fab. It was like her and then drums and bass and then a singer, and it was just like, this is incredible. 4 people is making this much noise, and like harp in sort of like a jazz trio, jazz quartet. It worked so well. It was mesmerizing. It was honestly one of the most beautiful Tiny Desks I've ever seen. I don't know why I've never seen it before. I've got Little Sim's Tiny Desk open on my browser, and I have had for like over a week now. The third music recommendation I'm going to give is a cover. Tenacious D, who I unfortunately missed. They came and played the O2 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very upset because when I found out they were playing the O2, it sold out, so I couldn't go see them, and I was pissed off because I love Tenacious D. And they recently recorded a cover. I think they're releasing an album soon, and they recorded a cover of Wicked Game. I can't remember the name of the dude who originally recorded Wicked Game, but it's that one. Wicked game to play, to make me feel this way, and I don't want to fall in love. And it's just so good because it's just Jack and Kyle, just vocal, guitar, and it's not very long. It's like less than 2 minutes long, and it's just so good. Jack Black's voice is just out of this world. I love that guy's voice so much. Like, he's genuinely one of my top 5 vocalists. Like, and I'm not even joking. I'm not even exaggerating. It's like Jack Black, Meatloaf, Ella, Nina. I want to say, like, maybe MJ? But what of Stevie? And Lisa Fish is just an insane talent. Okay, you know what? There's quite a lot of very, very good singers, but Jack Black is definitely in my pantheon of singers. I mean, male singers, yeah, it's like him, Meatloaf, Freddie, MJ, and like Stevie, probably. Is that true? I don't know. I can say whatever I want. It's just my opinion. Yeah, so enjoy that music. Go listen to that music. There's some good music there. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, especially if you've made it all the way through these sort of, how long have we been talking? Like 35 minutes, 36 minutes. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that you can get something out of it. You know, I love talking to myself, but I especially love the idea of talking to you and hopefully connecting with you. And maybe if you can listen to me ramble every once in a while, it can help you with whatever you're going through. So yeah, have a good one. Have a good week. Have a good couple of weeks. I think I'm uploading these fortnightly now, I guess. But have a good one. Much love to you and yours, and